Hello class and welcome to a new analysis of Latest Face by Philip Larkin. This poem is about the speaker's encounter with a beautiful face and his tortured uncertainty about whether to pursue the woman or retreat. Its central themes are idealized beauty versus the messiness of a real love, emotional paralysis, and the fear of commitment. Before we begin the stanza analysis, let us consider the title, Latest Face. The word latest carries an interesting connotation. It simply means the most recent face, the newest in what is implied to be a sequence. This single word immediately establishes a tone of emotional detachment and cynicism. The speaker establishes that this face is totally temporary and futile. It is a simple item in a larger and longer list, which will carry on after this face. Let's move on to stanza 1. I'll leave you a moment to read the stanza by pausing the video in order to form your own opinion. So as you have read, in this stanza, the speaker sees a beautiful face for the first time and is immediately overwhelmed. He addresses the woman directly, telling her that her beauty seemed homeless until his gaze received it, and he ends by urging her not to look away. So as I mentioned, the stanza opens with an apostrophe. The speaker addresses the woman directly as latest face and references this face with the article you. So this apostrophe turns the poem immediately into an intimate and almost urgent address. This directness might create a sense of vulnerability, as though the speaker cannot help but speak to her, even if she cannot hear him. The word effortless deserves close attention with its suffix less. So the suffix less carries the connotation of removal, of something being stripped away. What is removed is effort itself. The woman, or the face, expends nothing, she requires nothing, and he is the one who feels. This suffix establishes from the get-go a one-sided relationship from the poem's very first line, which is a power imbalance that will eventually intensify as the poem runs its course. Then the phrase, "Your great arrival at my eyes," suggests that the speaker is almost motionless, as though he is simply receiving the impact of the face's presence rather than actively pursuing it. Beauty appears to come to him unexpectedly and places him in a state of awe or suspension where he is unable to respond normally. The speaker seems stunned, immobilized, unable to move. He is completely dazzled by the beauty of the face. This is also the beginning of an extended metaphor. Your great arrival at my eyes presents the speaker's gaze as a destination the face has journeyed toward. And this is developed in a later line, your beauty has no home till then. So in these two lines, the speaker positions himself as the place that gives beauty meaning and habitation. The speaker believes that he is the only person capable of appreciating and perceiving this beauty at its fullest extent. Next, the punctuation and the semicolon after till then is structurally significant. It represents a dividing line between two states of being, the time before his gaze received her beauty and the time after. He then calls the face precious vagrant, which is totally an oxymoron. Precious implies or insinuates value and care, while vagrant implies homelessness and wandering. We can perhaps interpret this as a distinction between the physical and the personal. She is physically precious, so hence the word precious, but her life is vagrant, unknowable. The speaker is totally basing himself around the face's outward appearance without actually reflecting on the inside of the person in front of him. Whilst her exterior is precious, her interior is vagrant, unknowable, empty. The speaker then commands the face with an imperative: recognize my look and do not turn again. The speaker, who had previously been overwhelmed and passive, suddenly urges the woman to return his gaze and stay. Let's now move on to stanza 2. Please pause the video and read the stanza for yourself in order to form your own opinion before my analysis. So in this stanza, the speaker analyzes the nature of the connection between himself and the woman. He concludes that it exists only on an abstract and useless level. He holds her beauty, she holds his admiration. Once either of them enters real life or a real relationship, that ideal will inevitably dissolve, and the first impressions will completely disappear. The stanza opens with admirer and admired embrace, a line rich with antithesis. Admirer and admired are grammatically parallel and semantically opposite, placing the two figures in a mirror relationship and establishing the two sides of the relationship. One gives attention, the other receives it. But this antithesis captures the hollow symmetry of an idealized admiration. This completely symmetrical relationship can only exist in fairy tales. And so it is completely unrealistic and idealized by the speaker. And we once again have the suffix less in useless. This suffix carries the same structural weight as effortless in stanza 1. But this time what is absent is use, purpose, and value. Whilst on paper this encounter seems to be a match made in heaven, in reality it can only become useless. This relationship cannot be functioning, it can only exist in this dreamy and idealized scenario. But coming back to this suffix less, Larkin uses this suffix across both stanzas in order to construct a world defined by what is missing rather than what is present, reinforcing this theme of the one-sided relationship. She lacks effort, he lacks purpose, and between them there is no genuine exchange. And the phrase, "I contain your current grace," is again a reference to the extended metaphor, according to which the speaker's eye is the only vessel able to contain, to house the face's beauty. Notice how contain has a double meaning. It can both mean to hold or to contain something, but also to contain means to limit the spread of something. And then we have an important turning point of the poem in yet to move into real untidy air. So Larkin's basically saying, yes, this relationship seems so great in this very moment, but if we move into real life, into untidy air, what will this relationship actually amount to? This idealized moment of admiration must eventually enter the messy reality of ordinary human life, symbolized by this real untidy air. So here the word untidy evokes the disorder and the unpredictability of genuine human experience. And then Larkin writes that if this relationship were to plunge into real untidy air, it would bring no lasting attribute. The speaker here recognizes openly that relationships bring no tangible sense of permanence. The word lasting is especially telling here. And so, what are these attributes that this relationship cannot bring? Well, Larkin answers that question through a triplet: bargains, suffering, and love. And the order in this triplet is highly interesting. Larkin places love after bargains and suffering. So therefore, Larkin presents love as something complicated. It involves compromise, negotiation, vulnerability, and pain. And the stanza closes with the diction of always planned salute. The perfect moment of admiration described earlier is artificial and cannot represent real love and a functioning relationship. Here, the word salute implies a formal, almost a rehearsed gesture of respect rather than a genuine emotional connection. Always planned suggests something controlled and imagined rather than spontaneous and genuine. And last but not least, let us move on to stanza 3. Please pause the video before I analyze it. In this stanza, the speaker confronts the choice before him with mounting anxiety. He wonders whether he must follow this woman into a real relationship, risking to find nothing. He then wonders if he should refuse. We first of all have a metaphor in the statue of your beauty. The woman's beauty is presented as something fixed, cold and lifeless. Larkin does not see this woman as a living being, but he's imagining this picture-perfect sort of gaze he has upon her in this split second. And he wonders whether this idealized version of her will actually walk. Will this relationship actually materialize? Will it work? Will this sudden moment of admiration actually translate into something tangible, real, living? But this image of a statue is a deliberate allusion to the Greek myth of Pygmalion, the sculptor who fell in love with his own perfect statue and prayed for it to come to life. The rhetorical question, will the statue of your beauty walk, echoes the myth directly. The speaker asks whether this ideal he has constructed can ever become real. As in the myth, the desire is built on a love for an image rather than a person. We then have a modal verb in must I wait behind it, which introduces sort of helplessness and compulsion. The speaker does not feel like he is choosing. He feels driven forward by a force he cannot resist. The diction of wade deepens this. It suggests slow and exhausting movement through resistance. And then we have another antithesis in something's found or is not found. Here Larkin pairs two possible outcomes in an antithesis. By pairing two opposite outcomes, Larkin expresses the speaker's uncertainty about whether his pursuit of idealized beauty will lead to a meaningful discovery or to nothing at all. Both outcomes are presented with equal grammatical weights, and neither is preferred. The movement from the stanza's opening statement, lies grow dark around us, into the sequence of questions, of rhetorical questions that follows until the poem's very last word, is itself very interesting punctuation. The final stanza begins with a declaration and is then followed by questions that never resolve. The movement from statement to interrogation enacts the speaker's mounting confusion regarding this relationship. And then with the conjunction or, the speaker presents the second option, or, if I will not shift my ground, So this is obviously a volta. The speaker pivots from asking what happens if he follows the woman into a relationship to asking what happens if he refuses. He then wonders what will happen if he denies her, if he spurns her love. Will this momentary power she had on him actually start pursuing and chasing him? And this is shown by the gradation in the verbs. Duck and run, double round, leap from the sun, murder and not understand. Each action is more extreme than the last, enacting the speaker's fear that her power over him will pursue and destroy him without even understanding why. And on that note, we have finished analyzing the poem. Let us move on to structure, form, and rhythm. In terms of structure, the poem moves through 3 phases: idealization in stanza 1, the impossibility of this ideal in stanza 2, and the confrontation with an unresolvable choice in stanza 3. The volta in stanza 3 marks the poem's sharpest argumentative turn. Then, in terms of form, the poem consists of 3 stanzas of unequal weight: 6 lines, 8 lines, and finally 11 lines. The stanzas grow progressively longer, which enacts the speaker's escalating anxiety and accumulation of fears. The form is deliberately asymmetrical, refusing any order or resolution. In terms of rhythm, the poem does not follow a fixed metrical scheme. And to conclude, we can analyze this poem through the lens of 3 central themes. The first one is the conflict between idealized beauty and the disorder of real love. This is by far the most important theme of the poem. Whilst in stanza 1, the bond, the connection between the 2 individuals seems so strong in the moment, stanza 2 dismantles this idea, showing that real relationships bring bargains, suffering, and love. The woman's beauty is a statue, an allusion to the myth of Pygmalion. Whilst the statue seems so beautiful and appealing on the outside, it is unable to survive contact with lived experience. It cannot thrive in real life. Second major theme is objectification and the one-sided relationship. The recurring suffix less in effortless and useless constructs a world of absence and imbalance. Whilst the speaker seems completely dazzled and bewildered and stunned by the woman, she seems to put absolutely no effort into her attitude, which is effortless. And finally, the third theme is emotional paralysis and the fear of commitment. By stanza 3, the speaker is faced with an unresolvable dilemma, whether he should pursue this relationship or completely reject it. The lack of resolution of the poem mirrors the speaker's own indecision and fear of commitment. And on that note, thank you for having listened to this analysis of Latest Faced by Philip Larkin. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.